gracias. Since 2002, 470 unionists have been assassinated.
Desde el año 2002, 470 trabajadores sindicalizados han sido asesinados.
This year alone, 5 unionists have already been killed.
Solo este año ya han sido asesinados 5 dirigentes y trabajadores sindicalizados.
That's almost 1 unionist a week that's been killed in this country. And this is happening at a time that, as we heard this morning from the 3 labor confederations, that unions are disappearing in Colombia. The steelworkers has been involved in, and continues to be involved in, human rights lawsuits against the Drummond Company and Coca-Cola for their alleged complicity with paramilitaries in killing workers here. And for many years, the steelworkers has been lobbying both the U.S. and Colombian governments to actively and aggressively investigate allegations that U.S. multinationals have been aiding paramilitaries and to prosecute those responsible. Thank you. You could either say I'm the, one of the attorneys for the plaintiffs in the case, or you can say that I'm Associate General Counsel of the United Steelworkers, or USW for short. You could say USW. Yeah. These companies that have been paying the AUC paramilitaries have been conscious of what they're doing, and they know what these paramilitaries do. They assassinate. And so, this is pretty significant. I mean, it's now gotten the attention of the Colombian government, which, by the way, has been horribly remiss in bringing these cases to justice. Out of the over 4,000 trade unionists killed since 1986, only 5 cases have been successfully prosecuted in Colombia. 5. Yes, in Colombia since 1986. It's the trade union murder capital of the world, by far.
Mi hermano era comisión negociadora y yo era el asesor de la negociación por parte sin el trinel. Ahí frente a la empresa había un kiosco, que era donde vendían la alimentación y cositas. Ellos como que llegaron ahí y le preguntaron a otro compañero quién era Isidro. Entonces ahí ya en el momento que salía un carro ya para revisarlo, como a ellos les tocaba revisar el carro surtidor, hacer el conteo y todo, abrió la puerta, el carro se parqueó y el carro que arrancó y ellos, antes de cerrar la puerta, se le metieron por el lado de atrás del carro y enseguida le dispararon ahí. Como 9 tiros le hicieron, que fue lo que presentó los dos. Ya, y lo dejaron ahí, se fueron, campantes. Se creó el sindicato y empezaron los problemas. Sí, el objeto todo era lo mismo, acabar con el sindicato. Porque supuestamente decían que la empresa estaba muy mal.
So initially it was, we brought a lawsuit in July of 2001 against Coke, and so we initially used this Alien Tort Claims Act law, which is 200 years old, which is a very simple law. It's like one sentence long. It says that the district court shall have jurisdiction over cases brought by aliens, that is non-U.S. citizens, in tort. That means for personal injuries committed in violation of the law of nations. And when you look at the law on its face, it sounds like a human rights law. And that the people outside the U.S. could bring cases under this law for human rights abuses. And then in 1996, a group of lawyers, including my co-counsel Terry Collingsworth, brought the first case against a company.
Our courts have now consistently said that if a violation occurs in a place and cannot be redressed there, then our doors are open to them to seek justice in the United States. Because think Burma or Colombia, places where right now at least you can't get justice. There's no other place to go. You can go to the UN and they'll write a really nice report for you. It's not going to change what's happening. The way that we're approaching it here is we're going after the bad actors. We have about 14 major human rights cases against corporations. I think that the most important cases, or the ones that I would flag as being the most significant right now, are first the Coca-Cola case, because it raises an issue of how legally accountable is a major corporate brand like Coca-Cola for the activities in its far-flung plants, bottling plants in places like Colombia.
El 5 de diciembre se vencía el término para él definir, o sea, llamar a negociar, porque ya el pliego se presentó el 30 de noviembre. Y la respuesta fue estar matando a uno de los negociadores, y supuestamente al matar a uno de los negociadores, uno de los asesores tendría que emigrar, porque era el hermano, que era yo, que también estaba en la lista, porque los que andaban buscando. Y ahí empezaron con Adolfo. Mi hermano fue como a las 9, como a las 9:30. Adolfo, Cardona, que lo cogieron, pero se les voló. Y a los otros ya sí les tocó salir pues antes que les cayera.
¿Qué esperas del proceso en Estados Unidos?
Pues no tanto lo que espera, que se pueda demostrar que hubo alguna relación entre Coca-Cola y los paramilitares. Que sí hubo una relación, que sí hubo unos apoyos por parte de las transnacionales esas a los grupos paramilitares.
So we originally filed 4 complaints against Coca-Cola involving violations at a number of plants in Colombia. The most notable being the murder of Isidro Hill in Carepa in 1996, the unlawful imprisonment of 3 Sinatra leaders in Bucaramanga in 1996, the detention and torture of Jorge Humberto Leal, another Sinatra now worker in Cúcuta, and the threatening and attempted assassination of Juan Carlos Galvez, another union leader in Barranca Bermeja.
Pero hay que entender que toda esta oleada de amenazas, todas estas presiones, pues lo que ha generado es que hay mucha gente con temor. Nosotros hemos dicho, y en eso seguimos insistiendo, legal o jurídicamente el sindicato no van a ser capaces de acabarlo. Porque ahí nos vamos a buscar 25 afiliados de donde sea, hasta debajo de las piedras. Pero lo que hoy, tanto empresarios como gobierno, y todo el trabajo que se está haciendo de campañas sucias contra miembros de Sinaltrainal, de desprestigio, de legitimación, es que quieren acabar a Sinaltrainal como proyecto político de los trabajadores. Claro, dos ocasiones me han intentado asesinar. Los 3 hijos, ellos los intentaron secuestrar, a mi compañera, a mi señora madre también la intentaron secuestrar. Y bueno, judicialmente he estado involucrados en más de 10 procesos, acusados por la empresa Coca-Cola de todo tipo de cosas que a ellos se les han ocurrido adjudicarme, ¿sí? La campaña internacional inicia porque aquí le dijimos al gobierno de Estados Unidos, al gobierno de Colombia, a la propia Coca-Cola Company, pusimos los casos en conocimiento de las autoridades, todos terminaron los procesos archivados, o sea, una injusticia, o sea, una impunidad total. Entonces, cuando nosotros supimos de la ley que nos permitía en Estados Unidos como ciudadanos colombianos, al vernos afectados por Coca-Cola, que teníamos esas posibilidades, esa jurisdicción, entonces fue cuando contactamos a los steelworkers, a Terry, a los abogados, e iniciamos el proceso en la Corte de los Estados Unidos contra la empresa Coca-Cola.
Hasta la victoria.
Listo, hermano.
Coca-Cola asesina. Coca-Cola asesina. Coca-Cola asesina.
Martin Luther King said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Wherever Coca-Cola is, there's also poverty and despair. The world of Coca-Cola is a world of lies, deception, immorality, corruption, and widespread labor, human rights, and environmental abuses.
Initially, it was just a lawsuit. But quickly there was interest generated among students at colleges in the case, largely because it's Coca-Cola, which is a consumer product, which is very famous. It's a company that's based, you know, its goodwill is critical to its ability to sell products. I mean, because all it sells is sugar water. Its kind of marketing and good name is really all it has, you know, and so it's, for years, had these, you know, kind of strange commercials, Coke adds life, and, you know, have a Coke and a smile.
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honey bees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing, to play harmony and melody, and I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it coming.
In a way, Coke sets itself up really well for a consumer campaign. And it was at that time that we began discussions with Ray and eventually enlisted his help.
Dan and Terry, who I didn't know, came to me and said, look, we have a very serious problem with the Coca-Cola company, and it involves the kidnapping, torture, and murder of union leaders in Colombia. And we need some help. We don't have any resources, but we really need your help. And when I listened to what they were telling to me, I says, my God, how could this be true? I mean, it's unbelievable. And yet here I had two very credible people talking to me, so I simply said, well, look, we're going to have to investigate this, and if what you're telling me is correct, then we'll take it on. And we put together what we called the Campaign to Stop Kill Coke. We wanted a name that would really stick to them.
Here's...
Oh, 100, okay.
Spanish.
The discussion we previously had on this point was about the use of the word genocide. And since we're not using the word genocide, why can't we say either exploits Darfur tragedy or profits from Darfur tragedy? I think they are.
I got it right here.
They clearly are.
Coke evades sanctions, ignores Darfur tragedy.
Ignores, okay. Okay. Considering how lucrative and destructive Coca-Cola's behavior has been in other parts of the world, it's no surprise that the beverage giant won't let U.S. trade sanctions or concerns about ethics get in the way of their plans for the lucrative market known as the Sudan. Second paragraph, you might ask, is that the same Sudan where one of the world's most brutal dictators presides over mass murder and genocide? Sure, but for Coke, it's just another profit center.
Let's start it off with a little explanation about the drink you think satisfies your dehydration. In actual fact, Coca-Cola is packed with substances that only make you more thirsty. But have you heard these stories they're trying to hide that Coca-Cola executives are threatened by? They've been messing with Colombian workers who asked for a better wage and ended up murdered. So Coca looking shady, been investigated, staff intimidated, seems like nothing's changing.
I don't think I'm naive to think that we will win this. Actually, and I'll be totally honest with you, a year ago, I didn't think we'd win it. I thought we were going to lose it. I'll be totally honest. But things have changed in that year. And we know from our discussions with Coke, from our discussions with Ed Potter, the head of global relations for Coke, that they're feeling the heat. I mean, they've told us they are. They're very unhappy about the fact that the word's getting out about them. I think that we're going to win it, and I think we'll win it this year, in 2006.
Dan, how you doing, man?
Good, how are you?
Okay.
Just checking in to see how things are looking for the shareholders meeting in Delaware.
Well, right now I think they're looking pretty good.
Are you going to wear some sort of armor or body, protection in case they beat you this year?
No, because I'm in better shape than they are, and that wouldn't even concern me. In fact, I would love for one to come up and try to nail me from behind again, and this time I'll have people watching my back.
Very good.
Yeah.
Maybe they should also watch your front.
Right. We are in front of a very fancy hotel, the Hotel DuPont, where Coca-Cola is holding its annual shareholders meeting this year. We've been here the last 2 years at this meeting, and the year before that we were in Houston, Texas. The annual shareholders meeting is the only place that you know that you can go eyeball to eyeball or face to face with the top policymakers of the company. They're here today.
You lied like you lied earlier today about the situation in Colombia. You said that at no time was any Sinaltrano union leader ever harmed by paramilitary security forces at any of your plants.
Don't take the camera.
Yet Isidro Gil was assassinated, murdered in one of your bottling plants in Colombia. The next day, those same paramilitary security forces went into the plant, rounded up the workers. Managers, Coca-Cola managers in the plant had prepared resignation forms. Those workers were told that if they did not resign by 4 p.m. that day, they too would be murdered like their union officer, Isidro Hill. They all resigned en masse, and the wages in that plant went from $380 a month down to $130 a month. After months of investigation into Coca-Cola, all evidence shows that the Coca-Cola system is rife with immorality, corruption, and complicity in gross human rights violations, including murder and torture.
As many of you here today know, our company and our bottling partners have been accused of complicity in the murder of union members and of ongoing intimidation of union members and of the suppression of union activity in Colombia. As the new leader of this company, and I might say as a former student activist, I came to the Colombia issue with an open mind and also with my eyes wide open. I've reviewed the situation, and I, independently, have come to the same conclusion as a Colombian court, as the Colombian Attorney General, and as the extensive investigations conducted by counsel over the years, that the allegations are not true.
Pueblo que nos escucha, únete a la lucha. Pueblo que nos escucha, únete a la lucha. Sindicato de Coca-Cola, presentes en la lucha. Llegó el 1 de mayo.
Some of them were directly killed. You know, the first ones were directly killed in the trucks. You know, in the Coca-Cola trucks.
In the Coca-Cola trucks, they were shot to death.
Yeah. And some of them were captured, tortured, and then their bodies were dumped.
And some inside the plant, even.
Well, yeah. There was a couple of cases that were inside the plant.
And so,
or close by to the plant. You know.
So during this time, what is Coca-Cola in Atlanta doing in response to these killings?
Basically nothing, denying their responsibility, saying that they were not responsible for whatever happened.
Did Coke ever compensate the families of the murdered unionists?
No. There was no compensation. That's Guatemalan laws don't allow for that type of conversation. And we didn't have the skills or the knowledge of that you can do that through the American laws.
Well, first of all, Guatemala is a very important and interesting case because in the late 70s at one bottling plant there, one Coke bottling plant, 8 union leaders were murdered consecutively. So first, using the death squads, they had the president of that union at that plant murdered. After he died and a new president came forward, they had that president killed. And then the next and the next and the next, 8 of them in a row. An incredible situation. At first, Coke said exactly what they've been saying regarding the Colombia case. They say, well, that's not us, that's a franchise in Guatemala. They operate pursuant to a franchise agreement with us, but that's not us. It's sad that, those guys are getting killed, but that's just how that goes. But that's not our responsibility. But then there was a huge international campaign against Coke, much like what we're trying to do today. And finally, because of that campaign, Coke did intervene with that bottler, forced it to sell to a new owner, and those murders stopped. So we know from that experience that they have control. Now we're dealing with a similar situation now in Colombia with a rash of anti-union violence at Coke bottling plants. And we're trying to get Coke to stop that.
What would you point to as signs of the success of the campaign? What do you count as success?
Well, what I count as success is knowing the kind of pressure that we're putting on a company, the fact that 33 colleges and universities have kicked Coke off their campuses, the fact that many of the largest labor unions in the United States and Europe have removed Coke machines and banned the sale and distribution of Coke products at all their facilities and functions, and the fact that Business Week reported this August that the Coca-Cola company has lost 1% of the value of its brand name, which translates into a loss of $680 million. And I'll tell you why. Everywhere you go around the world, people are knowing the Coca-Cola company as Killer Coke. Not only because of the human rights violations in Colombia, but also because of the horrible things they're doing in India and Mexico, and the fact that they're helping to prop up the political regime in the Sudan.
Thank you for coming by. Good to talk to you.
Thank you, Peter. Appreciate it.
Ray Rogers is founder of KillerCoke.org. He will speak twice in town at Grand McEwen tonight at 5 and at the University of Alberta tomorrow from noon to 1:30 at Dinwoody Lounge. I should say we did offer the Coca-Cola Company a chance to respond to Mr. Rogers' allegations. They chose not to return our calls. It is now 5 minutes before 4 o'clock.
Thank you so much. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here at the University of Alberta today. Now Coca-Cola is claiming just before last year's annual meeting, we have the prestigious International Labor Organization of the United Nations has decided to come in here and do a complete independent investigation, completely in their control, of the present and past labor practices of the Coca-Cola Company. And if you have any questions about this, contact Ms. Sally Paxton at the ILO. Now, this was last March, about a year ago. I called Sally Paxton at the ILO over in Geneva. And I said, so I want to find out some information on the investigation that the ILO is doing. And Mr. Rogers, we're not doing an investigation. And we are not doing any assessment of any kind about past and present labor practices. Okay, Ms. Paxton. Now, Coca-Cola keeps promoting that, in fact, the ILO is. So I go to the annual meeting, and I raise the issue with the CEO.
Mr. Rogers, I don't know who Ms. Paxton is, but what she said is not correct. We have a document, we have an agreement, and they're going to investigate past and prior practices. You're quoted as saying that it's a publicity stunt. I can't think that engaging the ILO is a publicity stunt. An organization which for 60 years has been held in the highest regard right throughout the world by labor organizations, by civil society, and by governments. And we think we've gone to the most credible people that can possibly be found in this world to look at what has happened in Colombia.
If we are speaking about fundamental labor rights, for instance, trade unions, it's very important that you have...
¿En qué va lo de la investigación sobre el caso de Coca-Cola?
El tema de Coca-Cola no nos ha llegado, ni de la oficina, ni del sector sindical, ni del sector de los empleadores. Realmente no tenemos, hasta ahora, no tenemos, esta representación no ha tenido intervención ninguna.
Pero ¿por qué Coca-Cola ha dicho, el presidente ha dicho de que ustedes están haciendo una investigación del asesinato de los trabajadores de Coca-Cola aquí en Bogotá?
Nosotros aquí no estamos haciendo ninguna investigación. La representación de la OIT aquí, no.
If everyone thinks this is a nice, clean deal, why don't the ILO stand up with Coke and say, here's what we're going to do? And then we don't have to guess.
Right.
So that's one thing we're trying to provoke, if you will.
We wonder, though, oftentimes we...
That was a pretty typical call that I get pretty much several times a day from students around the country who are trying to work on their campaigns to make Coke accountable for what's happening on the campuses. That was the University of Michigan, which initially had a very successful campaign and got Coke removed. Now Coke has been reinstated by the administration based on, I believe, Coke's representation that the ILO investigation will in fact be fair and neutral and independent. And it's our view that that's impossible, that there is something that is cooked here if Coca-Cola was able to get the ILO to do an evaluation for them, particularly when Ed Potter is the director of Coca-Cola's global labor relations, but also is the U.S. employer representative to the ILO, which is a very, very powerful position.
¿Por dónde? Danko Malik. ¿Cómo estás?
Estoy muy feliz para verte.
Igualmente. ¿Cómo te fue en el vuelo?
Muy bien, perfecto. Perfecto.
Very good. The plan is to go visit a gentleman named Rafael Garcia. He's now in jail on his own corruption charges, but the key is that he has evidence in our case against the Drum and Coal Company. He witnessed Augusto Jimenez, the president of Drummond's Colombian operations, give a suitcase of money to a liaison for a very powerful paramilitary leader named Jorge Quarenta for use to murder union leaders at Drummond, the families of whom we represent.
Vámonos. Antes de que lance.
¿Qué dijeron, hermano? Cuéntame. Muy bien. It's incredible, man. This is like a... We got a signed declaration from this witness that we wanted, saying that he witnessed the president of Drummond's Colombian mining operations pay paramilitaries to kill two of the main leaders there, who were killed later. I think what's important is we now have smoking gun evidence. That's going to help workers at other companies like Coca-Cola. It's going to give credence to all these claims. Because people say, oh, that's crazy, that'll never happen. Well, it did happen, and it's important that we now have proof.
Listo, mi hermano. Un abrazo y saludos a la familia.
Gracias, muchas gracias, saludos.
Listo, mi hermano. Bueno, pues. Bueno, hermano. Listo, Chino, listo. Bueno, hermano, suerte, pues.
Gracias, hermano.
Bueno, pues. Que sí es el cliente, hermano.
Es increíble. ¿Cuál periodista?
Un periodista del Tiempo, lo llamó a él.
¿El Tiempo?
Sí, sí, le dijo.
Fuck.
Es él.
Y va a escribir un periódico.
Sí, sí.
Oh, man. Oh. El caso está cerrado.
Sí, sí.
Está bien que yo leo El Tiempo todo el día.
Sí, sí.
Mi periódico favorita. Hey, Terry. We've got a confirmation from El Tiempo, and they're going to do a story. Yeah. Terry, they're fucked. This is the guy I was going to talk at the hearing tomorrow about Luis Carlos Rodriguez, and I'm going to hold up the El Tiempo article. And there's going to be everyone there. Okay, Terry. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Of particular significance for today's hearing is that the process requires the paramilitary leaders to confess their crimes. And this has revealed serious allegations regarding the involvement of companies, including American ones, in funding illegal armed groups. Francisco Ramirez is a Colombian lawyer, unionist, and human rights activist.
Yo tengo 16 años de ser dirigente sindical y en esos 16 años me han asesinado 10 compañeros míos de sindicato y federación. Es una práctica común de compañías nacionales y multinacionales y el Estado colombiano asesinar sindicalistas para obtener mayor ganancia. La compañía Drummond está acusada de pagos directos a paramilitares. Las pruebas que tenemos la señalan como la directa responsable del asesinato de 3 sindicalistas y también de masacres en pueblos hechos por los paramilitares que ella paga. La compañía chiquita, como ya lo dijo Dan Kowalik, ha hecho estos mismos comportamientos y está acusada de tráfico de armas. La Coca-Cola está acusada de utilizar paramilitares para asesinar 8 sindicalistas colombianos.
Next is Dan Kabalik. He's Associate General Counsel for the United Steelworkers. He is counsel for the Colombian plaintiffs in Alien Tort Claims Act cases against Drummond, Coca-Cola, and Occidental Petroleum.
I was in Colombia on March 12, 2001, meeting with members of various mining unions. When I got to the CUT offices the next day, that's their AFL-CIO, we discovered that the night we were meeting with mining workers, the 2 of their brothers, Valmori Locarno and Victor Orcasita, were pulled off a company bus, a Drummond bus, taking them home from work. only that bus was stopped by paramilitaries who boarded the bus, asked for those workers by name, Valmori Locarno and Victor Orcasita. They pulled them both off the bus, murdered Valmori on the spot, took Victor away, tortured him, and assassinated him.
Before you finish your testimony today, I'd like to ask Mr. Kovalik if he likes such people as Che Guevara. I've got a picture here. It was allegedly taken in your office with a big poster on the wall of Che Guevara. So I'd like to know if you are admirers of Che Guevara, or if you have been to Cuba and worked with people in that government down there. I'd like to know why there isn't a great deal of hue and cry about that.
Mr. Kovalik, well, frankly, I feel like today you destroyed your credibility.
They showed a picture of me in front of a poster of Che. And they said, you know, I guess I could have refused to answer the question, but I was honest. I said, yeah, I do admire him. You know, not everything about him, but yeah, some things. His dream of a social justice. And he and this other representative, Mac, just seized on that. Said, you know, questioned my credibility. And it was kind of disastrous for me, you know. It didn't go well, you know. I was humiliated, you know. Now I just, frankly, I just want to go home and see my kids and try to, I don't know.
¿Qué necesitan para poder trabajar con Coca-Cola?
Primero que todo, el fiador para poder sacar una ruta, que es lo requisito que pide la empresa. Segundo, tener responsabilidad de manejo de la ruta. Responder por lo que pasa en la ruta. A nosotros, si nos atracan, la empresa no responde por nada. Si nos atracan, nos bajaron 300, 400 mil pesos, nosotros nos tenemos que poner en nuestro bolsillo. El seguro lo ponemos nosotros, los uniformes nosotros. Todo lo que se gaste en las rutas somos nosotros los responsables de esa plata.
Coca-Cola nos arrinda el camión, nos toca pagar el arriendo diariamente y así. Pagar envase que de pronto se pierda. Canastas.
Canastas que de pronto por un descuido se quedaron en algún cliente.
Te voy a hacer la pregunta de otra forma. ¿De qué se responsabiliza la empresa?
De nada.
De nada, realmente de nada. O sea, acá realmente
¿De su camión?
Sí, porque todos los responsables acá es los que traen en la ruta. Ellos tienen que sacar para todo. Simplemente Coca-Cola no responde por nada.
Bueno, y ustedes, por ejemplo, ustedes son sindicalizados.
No.
Ya
el que se sindicaliza está por dentro de la empresa.
Ya
si se sindicaliza, pues...
Y normalmente que los de los sindicatos ya son gente antigua. Ya gente
uno no puede llegar a sindicalizarse porque ya le buscan es sacarlo.
Sí, exacto.
No dejar que se agrande el sindicato en la empresa. ¿Para dónde te hicieron?
¿De dónde?
De Canadá.
¿De dónde?
De Canadá.
¿Cómo está?
¿Cómo así?
¿Cómo dice la falta de protección de Coca-Cola?
Coke has itself in a fairly unusual situation in that right away the judge in the Colombia case filed in Miami dismissed the Coca-Cola parent company. The dismissal was erroneous, and we're very confident that someday we'll get that reversed. The judge let them out based on their representation that their bottling agreement doesn't give them the right to control what's going on in Colombia. The judge essentially took their word for it, which is in violation of the basic procedural rule. So Coke's sitting there saying, we're not in the case, why are you still bothering us? And our response is, because you know as well as I do that you're out of the case based on a legal error, and we're going to get you back in the case. Plus, nobody cares. Not one public persona out there cares that you, Coca-Cola, are not in it, as long as your bottlers are in it. And the reason that you, Coca-Cola, are talking to us at any time about resolving this is that you know that the public understands that there is no distinction.
Well, we had a meeting a couple weeks ago in Washington. Coke called the meeting. They called Terry, a guy named Ed Potter, he's a director of global relations for Coca-Cola. He's known Terry for years. And Ed called Terry and said, you know what? We think we can reach a settlement in this Coke case involving the malfeasance in Colombia. And the meeting didn't go well. Essentially, they offered us the same thing they offered us last year, which was, it was insulting. They said because these plaintiffs are Colombian, we have to give a discount. We have to discount the monetary value of their claim because they're Colombian opposed to American. So whereas this case, if they were Americans, would be worth tens of millions of dollars, or $100 or million dollars or more, they said, okay, since they're Colombian, here's our offer. $1 million to be shared by everyone. So we decided after that meeting, because it went nowhere, and because they really had nothing for us, we decided we have to escalate. And we're going to ratchet up the lawsuits. Wherever we see them committing violations, for example in Turkey, we also know of a case in Guatemala, we're going to file those lawsuits. We're going to go after them. We're going to hold them responsible. If someone farts in another country, we're going to make them go and clean it up, you know.
I'm doing great. I'm just checking in at last minute to see if you're all clear on the argument in the Turkey case. What are you going to say when he asks you how come we filed this case here? That's the thing that's kind of driving us all nuts.
Well, I think what I'm going to say, or what I plan to say, is that in Turkey they could not get a fair hearing there. That the judicial system there is corrupt, particularly when it involves claims of unionists, because the government there is particularly hostile towards people trying to form unions, and that's why these guys were beaten up. So our position is that they don't have any other choice but to file here, where the corporate headquarters of these defendants ultimately are located.
So it was kind of funny because afterwards, I felt like the Coke lawyers were kind of high-fiving, and they at least feigned that they felt they did well in there. But I actually thought the judge, I think what he was basically saying, what you were saying, Ivan, that he pointed out the weaknesses in our case, the form nonconvenience, that is, whether the case should be in Turkey rather than here. Right. But I think if we firm that up for him, and I think we can do that, I think we have an in. I think we're okay.
Yeah, listen, you just have to protect the judge here. He's told you what his issues are, If we can show him that this is a form, he knows he has the case. And then for Coke, it might not be as laughable as they think it is.
Well, the reality is that it's not our side of the table, but their side of the table that has an interest in prolonging a dispute. They get paid by the hour, and in one of these large law firms, the senior partner, he makes $800 to $1,000 an hour for working on a case. So if you presented to that person a very good idea for how to solve the problem quickly and save the company all the money and embarrassment, he will never say it, but in his mind he's thinking, well, that's no good. I'd like this case to last for 10 years because I'll make a lot of money. And they make upwards of $3-4 million a year just in salary by continuing to represent the likes of a Coca-Cola or a Chevron or a Drum & Coal and defending their despicable acts that they commit in their overseas operations.
Coca-Cola.
Coke is innocent. Everybody seems to agree, except for the opponents in Coca-Cola, that Coke is, by international standards, innocent. Therefore, long live Coca-Cola, long live the University of Chicago's right to drink Coca-Cola. Thank you.
What do we think of Ray Rogers?
Well, it's a little, provocative, I guess, but the basic point is, there are people, the Killer Coke campaign is all concerned with the human rights of Colombians, and I just think, it's really, the important thing is the free market, and the invisible hand is if that's what's gonna happen under the influence of capitalism, that's what's gonna happen under the influence of capitalism. It's too bad, but really, if I like Coca-Cola.
Okay, now listen. Somebody once said that in slavery there's a job for everyone. Well, we don't need those type of jobs, do we? We also don't need jobs when people go to work and they stand up to protect their rights, that they don't know if they'll be alive to go home to their family. I'm going to talk about issues in here, and I hope when you find out what's going on with Coca-Cola in Colombia and India and Mexico and elsewhere, that you'll support the movement to kick Coke off this campus. Thank you, and I hope you'll come in.
We want Coke!
See you in
here! We want Coke! We want Coke! We want Coke!
Have you ever taken a class in economics?
Maybe I did. It was campus so long ago, but it might have put me to sleep. I understand economics.
So, we respond to incentives because we choose between Coke or Pepsi. Workers in Colombia, India, Mexico, they have a choice to work for Coke or not to work for Coke. And though you think that their jobs are shitty as hell, it's still better than the alternative.
Felix, if you have a question, ask it. Otherwise, sit down.
It's coming.
Look,
so, hold on.
I know where you're coming from.
So they respond to incentives, just like you respond to incentives. How do you make your money? How does Killer Coke make its money? You're a sham. It's a disgrace to have someone, one, who has never taken an econ course come here and lecture us. Thank you.
On this side.
In April of this year, the ILO issued a report on their conclusions into the investigation of union killings in Colombia. They found that the union killings could be traced directly to the president's office. Given that Coca-Cola cannot execute regime change in Colombia, and the ILO has fingered the president of Colombia for killing union activists in Colombia, what are we even doing here?
Oh, I think that's a great question. Actually, you made a good point for me here. What we've stated in our campaign is how the Colombian government and the secret police are working with corporations such as Chiquita Brands International that just paid a $25 million fine for working with the paramilitaries. And guess what? You know the CEO of Chiquita Brands, what company whose board they sit on? Coca-Cola Enterprises, your local bottler. You made my point. This is what these workers are up against. It's a collusion between the government, working with the paramilitaries and the big corporations to make sure there's no strong labor or human rights movement that can challenge their authority, that can challenge their profits, or can challenge their brutality.
Right now, we are transitioning. Coca-Cola representatives will, as soon as Ray Rogers exits, Coca-Cola representatives will enter, and we'll do the same exact thing with Coca-Cola.
So could I stay?
No, I'm sorry, you can't stay. Coca-Cola requested that they not be filmed because they didn't get the correct permissions, so we are honoring their request.
One question.
I'm sorry. So there are these two, 35-year-old white women standing and saying that, we don't want to lecture to you guys. We just want you to let us know what Coca-Cola should be doing and how we can, be a better company. And, we really care. And we have someone here from the local Coca-Cola chapter who is going to talk about scholarships, and they would just go on and on and on, not really answer the questions, say that the only reason that there's any sort of political controversy is because that guy, Ray Rogers, he is making it up for his own, political ends. And then the students responded, but local organizers in India, why would they make up that their drinking water is gone? And it was really good, and I feel like on the whole, everyone just felt like they were so patronizing and so dismissive and really kind of insulting, how they just kept saying, us folks, down home, and I don't know, I thought it was really interesting, but, yeah.
Coca-Cola does have a problem. They do not want to be on tape because they can't get away with the constant lies and misinformation that they put out there. That's what it's all about. I challenge them, go ahead and sue me. I'd love them to go ahead and sue me. Love to do discovery, present our case. We have no problem. Like I say, truth is a very strong defense. They can't deal with truth and they can't deal with the facts.
William C. Wardlaw III, who owns some 35,000 shares of Coke.
I do recognize you, Mr. Wardlaw.
Thank you, sir. Those shares and others held by my family and our charitable foundations go back to my grandfather and the initial Coke offering. My family and I are unanimous in feeling a deep responsibility to try to influence Coke to indeed do the right thing. People all over the world are now connected so that the villages in arid areas of India whose wells are being sucked dry and whose streams are being polluted by Coke bottling plants are in touch with Coke workers in Colombia, South America, who have seen many of their leaders assassinated. Our relationship with our bottlers is crucial and extremely complex, but some issues are not complex at all and are non-negotiable. We do not sell syrup to bottlers who violate basic international standards of human rights, terrorizing workers and their union organizers. We do not or should not sell syrup to bottlers who suck dry the wells of villages.
Thank you, Mr. Wardlaw. I don't impugn your integrity at all, Mr. Wardlaw, but I would say that I do wish that your statement that we are enlightened by truth-telling on the internet were entirely true. There is a great deal of truth on the internet, but unfortunately there is a great deal of perversion of the truth on the internet.
So we're here in San Francisco, California, and we're having our second mediation meeting with Coca-Cola. We made a lot of progress. The parties came very close to each other on the money. But Coke made it very clear that they would only take that offer if all the plaintiffs that are currently working at Coke bottling plants, which is 8 of them, if they'll resign their employment at Coca-Cola. Which is an incredible offer to make at the 11th hour. We're this close to an agreement. We've been talking for a year. They've never suggested that these people need to resign. The whole case is over workers and union rights. And they want these workers and key union leaders to resign their posts in order to make this deal. And of course I said, look, that is a deal killer. We won't agree to that. Take it off the table. And so that was a huge issue. I would say even a poison pill that they threw out there at the last minute. So I now go home without an agreement, but I think with the hope that we can reach an agreement if Coke comes off this ridiculous proposal that these workers resign.
No, pues ¿para qué seguir con algo que va a seguirse trabajando es sobre la base de lo que Coca-Cola quiere y no sobre lo nuestro? Eso no tiene sentido. Porque nosotros lo que decimos es o Coca-Cola cambia bastante su propuesta o no va a haber acuerdo, es que eso es así. Yo creo que hay que forzar a la empresa que presente ese texto en español. Ellos tienen la plata y tienen la gente para eso. Si han tenido la plata para jodernos aquí todo el tiempo, ¿por qué no van a tener el tiempo y la plata para resolver un problema tan sencillo como es una traducción? Bueno, hasta luego. Gracias.
Hey, Leo.
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. So how's our case in Colombia going?
It's going well. It's going well. Let me give you, because it's been a while since we talked about it. First of all, in terms of the Coke case, with any luck, and we've been, it's been like giving birth. We should be 2 weeks away from finally settling that case, I think.
And what will Coca-Cola, will there be an admission from Coca-Cola?
Not an admission, no. That's very difficult to get. But I think the fact that they're settling and there's going to be a press conference, which, and when that's scheduled, of course, I'd like you to be there, obviously.
Well, let's try to coordinate it.
Okay. I think a lot of people will perceive it as that they did something. I mean, when you pay money, you did something.
You didn't pay it if you didn't do it.
Exactly. So that's a very positive thing that we're excited about. The other thing they have to do as part of the settlement is in Colombia, they have to, in all the papers and in the media, denounce anti-union violence and say it's not only wrong, it's bad for business.
You got to denounce it in America, too.
Well, that too. Well, it will be here, too, but specifically in Colombia, I think what we essentially want them to do is tell the paramilitaries, look, if you think killing unionists is helping business, it ain't.
It's not. Yeah.
Because it's embarrassing us, it's undermining us.
And we're exposing them all over the world.
Absolutely. So I think, Coke has come to its senses.
let's jump to 2007, right now. On the Super Bowl football game and the Academy Awards, Coca-Cola spent, just for a few minutes of advertising, about $20 million or more, just for a few minutes advertising. A 30-second ad on a Super Bowl cost $2.6 million. $2.6 million for a 30-second ad. And I know that this company certainly can be made to compensate the victims, the union and the victims, far more than what my understanding is.
Nosotros no estamos planteando una entrega de nuestra lucha a la empresa.
We're not planning a submission to the Coca-Cola company of our struggle.
Y como lo dije en un comienzo, no vamos a aceptar que con nosotros como víctimas se vengan a hacer negocios económicos tampoco.
I understand this is not a fight about money. It's a fight about power and dispersion of power. That's where the money comes in, and that is my main concern.
Y nosotros le estamos cobrando a Coca-Cola el pasado con esto, porque es memoria. Estamos diciendo, ustedes tuvieron que ver con estos crímenes, tienen que pagar por eso. Tienen que reconocer, o sea, si nosotros realmente queremos que exista la verdad, Coca-Cola tiene que decir cómo se benefició y cuál fue su participación en el crimen de los compañeros, mientras tanto no. Así den los millones de dólares que si no hay verdad, este proceso no sirve. Hermano, estamos negociando contra la política de los Estados Unidos. Es una negociación contra el modelo neoliberal, que es flexibilización, corrida baja de costos, no organizaciones sindicales, no contratos de trabajo, ¿sí? Entonces es una vaina tan importante que lo que nosotros logremos sea bien logrado, pero que sea una negociación política, no una negociación económica, ¿sí? Vea, viejo, si fuera por una negociación económica, nosotros hemos llegado aquí con el maletín, ¿sí o no? Hemos dicho, hijo puta, vea, denos a cada uno tanta plata, y punto. Y nos vamos contentos para la tierra, y con esa plata podemos hacer lo que quien decía ayer.
That it came up is that if we do the second option of not agreeing in this process, then at a minimum, all of us, particularly the lawyers, but the campaign activists as well, we would need to be absolutely crystal clear on what precise items we didn't get that would be required for the deal.
If I could do anything tomorrow in regards to this Coke campaign and cases, and others would go along with it, I would sign an agreement largely along the lines of what's already been negotiated. And what is that agreement? One, they would compensate any victim that Sinatra now has put forward. Okay? Sinatra now has put forward everyone they want to. Coke's agreed to pay for those people. Even one guy who never worked for Coke. Okay? They've agreed to start another fund, in addition to compensating people. Another fund that would help victims of anti-union violence throughout Colombia, whether they work for Coke or not. Coke's agreed they will publicly denounce anti-union violence in Colombia. They've agreed to an international human and labor rights policy that would cover their company throughout the world. I think this is a historic deal.
Those discussions have been going on since August the end of August of 2006. It's the longest I or anyone I know has ever heard of. This is extraordinary how long this is taking, largely because of cultural and language issues. And at the same time, the process, though, it has to end. We can't keep doing this. It's a big drain on resources, and if it can't be fixed, if it can't be resolved, then we should just go back to the court. I think quite a few of the union members don't really even grasp or believe that we could get a binding settlement with Coca-Cola that would benefit the members of the union. I think they don't trust the process, both because it's an American process and because they think Coca-Cola is so powerful that they will not abide by the agreement.
Cuando nosotros llegamos a Colombia, convencidos de que habíamos llegado a un principio de acuerdo, Coca-Cola nos manda el cuerpo del acuerdo. Y en ese cuerpo del acuerdo, Coca-Cola amarraba el sindicato. Nosotros no podíamos hacer otra campaña mundial. No podíamos solidarizarnos con nadie que tuviera líos con multinacionales. Explícitamente decía, usted no le puede hacer una campaña mundial a la Nestlé, ni a la Oxy, ni a la BP, ni a nadie. O sea, nosotros quedamos ni a la... O sea, era un amarre absoluto. Aparte de eso, teníamos que sacar el Tribunal Permanente de los Pueblos y decirle, no, ustedes no pueden juzgar a Coca-Cola por crímenes de lesa humanidad porque Coca-Cola es una empresa buena, respetuosa, etcétera, etcétera. Nosotros dijimos, no, eso no fue lo que acordamos en Atlanta. Mientras que estábamos sentados con la empresa, de muy buena voluntad, buscando una solución política al conflicto que teníamos aquí, la empresa le atizó más a la grave situación de los trabajadores. Los compañeros los siguieron amenazando, los compañeros los siguieron quitando sus puestos de trabajo, siguieron irrespetándole sus derechos, ¿sí? Siguieron amenazando a las familias, hubo el secuestro de un hijo por parte de grupos paramilitares. Los grupos paramilitares continuaban en las plantas de Coca-Cola, seguían mandándonos notas como ustedes pudieron verlas esta mañana. Entonces nosotros dijimos así, ¿para qué un acuerdo con Coca-Cola si se nos va a agravar la situación? Si hoy con una campaña montada, con una compañía sentada en Atlanta, que es la casa matriz, están haciendo lo que están haciendo aquí, el día que eso se solucione nos matan.
I received a copy of a letter that was sent to the attorneys in the human rights abuse cases from Sonaltano, dated July 9th of 2007. And it seems like they're ready to say, let's go back to square one, take the gloves off, and full steam ahead. Like I say, we've gone full steam ahead, so the campaign is still very, very powerful. But it'll even be more powerful if Sonaltano says, okay, we're taking the gloves off again, and we're going to start dispatching our people all around the world.
I think it's been for all of us, a hard period. And I think at first it was hard for me to handle that.
Creo que para mí era difícil manejar esa situación al principio.
I mean, largely because I felt that I had failed.
Básicamente porque pensé que había fallado.
And failed you guys.
Y les había fallado a ustedes.
No se sienta culpable
Don't feel guilty
de lo que usted no es
on
culpable.
what you're not.
Ustedes han permitido que
You've
mucha gente
allowed
esté con vida.
That many people is now
Incluso
alive.
que el sindicato exista
Even that
en
the
las
union
condiciones en que
exists
está hoy.
in these conditions we are now.
Y yo creo que eso es positivo.
I think what appears to have happened is that those negotiators went back to the higher-ups at Coke and said, you're crazy, we can't agree to that. I don't think it's the same deal. So I agree that Sinatronel's right about that. The fact that they would turn down a deal in which all of them would be enriched to the tune of, hundreds of thousands of dollars, how could that be a bad thing? That these folks have chosen their integrity and their dignity over money. I mean, isn't that what everyone should do?
And I guess in the end, 6 years later, I'd say we probably have accomplished more than I honestly or realistically thought we would. I think everyone who worked on the campaign can be proud of what they did.
And what we accomplished is we got Coke to the bargaining table, we got them to offer these guys a shitload of money, and gave the union a chance to say, fuck you, I don't want the money. Maybe that's all they needed.
We did get Coke to the table, and that was a historic moment where a union, Sinatronel, a relatively small union, was able to bring one of the largest corporations in the world to the bargaining table. We fought hard on that bargaining table for more than a year, actually about 17 months. And now, as I said, we're agreeing among ourselves to stop. I'm disappointed because we put a lot of time into this. We filed the case in 2001. We were in the court for a very long time before Coke agreed to start talking with us. And after 15, 16 months of negotiation, we got very close. As a lawyer, I'm happy. I'm going to get to take a crack in the Court of Appeals at reversing that decision, and I think we will prevail.
Brother, how are you?
Good.
Oh, Terry.
Now the dynamic is going to change in that we're going to be marching towards a ruling in the Court of Appeals that I think will be favorable to us. It is a challenge, but it's a challenge worth taking on, and I very much am conscious of the fact that we could change the world, if you will, if we're successful in winning these cases.
Good morning. My name is Elton Shepard. I'm share owner. Since Mr. Isdale's return to Coca-Cola, he has received about $1 million per month in salary, bonus, and free restricted stock. Mr. Isdale, when you left Coca-Cola in 1998, you received $20 million in unvested free stock. When you returned, you received a new grant of $7 million in free restricted stock. Since 1983, $1.5 billion in free restricted stock has been awarded. Incredibly, $660 million went to just 3 executives. Alan Greenspan calls this infectious greed. I agree.
Mr. Shepard, you raised a number of issues, and I do appreciate your continued interest in the company.
¿Cuánto te ganaste tú hoy en día y cuántas horas trabajaste?
Estamos trabajando desde las 6 de la mañana hasta casi... Ahorita nos toca entrar a liquidar el camión. Por allá hasta las 9 de la noche. De 6 de la mañana hasta las 9 de la noche.
¿Cuánto te ganaste?
35,000 pesos.